So this is Anthony, and I'm showing all the features and all you could do with the 905. The T905 might be OP905. So first is actually opening it up, and it is a hardwired model, so I would take off the screws. See from the back, you're actually going to have to open up the back, feed your load cell cable inside, and in here is where you actually start putting in the connection. So there's 4 wires, and those come with these 2 connectors. You don't actually need to use them, but you just need to line them up in the correct spot. EXC plus is red, SIG plus is green, SIG minus is white, and EXC minus is black. You gotta line this up, and then all the other ones are missing. You just skip them. So it's not important. If you had a 6-wire system, you just load up the other 2 wires, but we use 4-wire systems here. So just hook them up and you'll see how it looks. Okay, so the back of the 905, and I connected the wire already. So you can see down here, I fed it through the grommet and wired it up inside. And it's kind of hard to see, but there's 4 wires, red, green, white, black. So they're labeled down here. You need to actually check inside. But the red one's EXC plus, then black's EXC minus, SIG plus for green, and SIG minus for white. And then the other ones are for the other 2 wires, which I kept empty, and then the shield cable, which you had one. So this is a 4-wire system, but you could connect the 4-wire into a 6-wire connector, or 6-wire into 6-wire connector. So that's fine. Let me just close up. And you can now turn it over, turn it on. See error 6 because it needs calibration. Okay, so here, and then try to get into the calibration menu, hold down the set and escape. C01. So then you press the number pad. And you see C12. So 2 is for pounds, but you could put, if you want kilograms, you could put like 1, for example. That'd be 12, for example. So it could do 0, 2. 2 is for pounds. And then number pad to go next one. C200 because there's 0 decimal places, but if you want 1 decimal place, you put 1. Most people 0, make it 0 0. Just press 0 twice. C03 number pad, and then C31. This is how it's counting by. So you count by 2, for example. You count by 3, whatever, right? So 5 pounds. So it depends on the capacity. So you have 5,000 pound floor scale. It'll be 1 pound accurate. So you just put 1, 0, 1. If you had, let's say, a 10,000 pound scale, floor scale, then it would be 2 pounds. So you put 2. If you had a 100,000 pound scale, then it might be by 10 or 20. So this is how accurate it's going to be. So it's within 1 pound. And the higher the capacity, the lower the accuracy is. So that's kind of a trade-off. So in my case, it's going to be 1, 0.04. It's 10,000 pounds currently, so I'm going to put 5,000. For 5,000 pound scale, number pad, and then make this to 1, and make sure nothing on the scale. The scale is clear, and then you press number pad. You'll count down. Okay, CO6. Make that to 1. And then we're going to add your weight. So in my case, I'm going to use 1,000 pounds to calibrate with. But whatever your calibration weight is, you're going to dial it in the keypad. So I'm using 1,000 pounds. Put in my 1,000 pound under. And press number pad. Okay. Now I remove the weight from the scale. And escape. So you see the 0 correctly because there's nothing on the scale. Add my weight back on there. And you see 1,000 pounds. So that is how you calibrate the T905. So the next section will be showing you the count feature. So I still have my 100 pounds on there. So the count feature specifically, we're going to be pressing, you can see count gets into the count mode. And you can put in the number of pieces. So in my case, let's say, for example, it could be 10. Count and set. So you can see how I press count and set, dialed in the 10 pieces. So the count button gets into the count feature, but specifically you're going to do using count and set to actually set the amount of pieces you're going to have. So I currently have it at set to 10. So in my example, if I want to exit, you just press escape. And then count and set. I could dial in the amount of pieces. If I had 5 pieces, for example, I could dial it in. Press the number pad. And I actually have 5 pieces. Pressing count will show you my weight. So I have 1,000 pounds, and in this case it will be 5 pieces. But I could change this. Let's say it was actually 10 pieces. 10 pieces. And the total weight is 1,000. Doesn't think it will switch between it. So if I add more weight on my scale, it's 2,000 pounds, but it's 20 pieces. So that's how I'm able to count a certain amount of pieces. So in this case, I had to put the weight on the scale, dialed in with the count and set, how many pieces I put on there, and then I'm able to add my full weight on there and actually see. So the only thing you have to worry about is you only count, at least correctly, internally, if you put 1 piece, 5 piece, 10 piece, and 20 pieces. If you use like 3 pieces, for example, it's not going to count properly the average gross weight. So when I connect to a printer or a computer, you'll see what I'm saying. And I'll show you in a little bit. But it needs to be either 1, 5, 10, 20, because that's how it's saving. It's counting by 5s each time, up to, I think, 20 is the maximum. So that's all you have to worry about. Make sure you put one of those quantities of pieces. And, okay, so you're on there. And one thing that might be important for some people, if I escape here, is, let's say I had 1,000 pounds, but my equipment that I'm using, the container, is 1,000 pounds, but that's not my product. I don't want to count the container as part of the piece count. So in that case, I could tear out the piece count and then add my weight. Let's say I take off the container. It would be negative 1,000 pounds. So now I fill up the container, add all the product in my container, and now put it on a scale. And let's say it shows up, let's see, it starts fluctuating, 1,000. Then I'm able to press the count button to see what that is. 10 pieces. So in this situation, I have 10 pieces. And let's say I remove the weight. This is important because it's different from the 900, where I could actually remove the weight and the container and actually have a negative piece weight, because I have negative pieces. In this case, it's negative 1,000 pounds because the container was 1,000 pounds, but I should know what the negative container is, or negative amount of pieces it is. This is not correct because it's just a container weight, but the 900 does not do negative piece count. It can only do positive piece count, so it stops at 0. So for some people, it might be confusing when I remove the weight. You see a count of negative 1,000, but you see pieces of 0. Makes no sense. So that's specific with the 905, and you'll see a negative of piece count. For some operators, it's a lot easier to understand when I'm in that situation. That should be it. That's kind of mainly the thing you can do with the count feature. You have to dial in the weight every time. You can as well count, hold, you can tear this if you want. But there's no way to really dial in the weight of the product individually. Let's say the product is 10 pounds each. I can't dial in 10 and then say, okay, count the amount of pieces now. It doesn't really work that way. That's what the counting scales are for, but these are more for larger scales that are a lot heavier. So that explains that, and I'll show you how it's going to look on the computer. So you can see my desktop now, and you go to the manual for the 905, and you can get it on optimusscale.com. You click the home page under literature and manuals. OP905, might be T905, but you scroll down, and you'll see there's 3 RS-232 ports. You keep scrolling down. You see one for continuous transmit, printing, and C18 for either command mode, print mode, or continuous mode. So I'm using C18.3. So I would feed the cable through it, tip it over, and actually open up the back, you'll notice how right here, I'm using number 3, so that's my green cable is receive, the white is transmit, and black is ground, so RX, TX, ground. So I have my own cable that I made that has the bare wire, and it has the 9-pin connector. So you receive pin 3, transmit pin 2, pin 5 is ground. So then you can connect it to a cable, the DB9 to USB cable. And you'll notice when you open, you can right click on the Windows button and then Device Manager. We should have something called ports, and you'll see COM6. Maybe you have more than one, so you might want to unplug it, replug it in, and see which one is added. So in that case, now you have the terminal, and you could actually see if you open up a software like Putty. This is a hyper-terminal software. You could open a certain COM port, free. You could download online. So you can put serial COM. Change to 6. Okay, COM6, and you see the baud rate, 9600. That should be correct. And you open it. And I already have it set, the C18 setting. So you can see it's continuously outputting. So I'm going to go back to manual. And remember, we set it to the 3rd connection, which is C18. So we could actually check the C18 setting if you scroll up in the menu. So I'm not sure if these baud rates matter. I set the C42 to 9600, C52 to 9600, and C62 to 9600 for all 3 of the baud rates. But even when I changed it, it still worked. So I'm not sure if it needs to change or not. But if you're having troubles, change those 3 baud rates to 4, which is 9600, which is what I'm using in my software, but whatever your hyper-terminal software. And then we're going to go to C18. You can see the option, turn it off, command request, print mode, and continuous. So I'll show you each one, and you see my terminal. So right now it's continuous, so you can see it's continuously outputting. Hold set and escape, and you'll see 18. Right now set to 3, which is continuous sending mode. Connect computer display, so you can see what's currently happening. If I actually hold on to this, you can see serial number, date, time, net, tear, and gross. And you see it keeps going. If I change this to 2, and I press number pad, and then escape, see it doesn't do anything. If I want to press print, it prints it out. So if you connect to your printer, and this is like the standard for 412 and our 412 L2, you could now press the print button, and you'll see receipt. It will show serial number, date, time, net, tear, and gross. So that's how if you want to connect to a printer, you put C18-2. If it's a different string output, it might not work for certain printers, like a Zebra printer. But at least for our 412 and 412 L2, it will work. And it shows that particular string output. And you see for, I'll show you quickly, C18 of 1, which command request. You might say, oh, it's not doing anything. The command request is when you type in something on a keyboard, and it actually responds back. It does the command of what you want it to do. So if you actually scroll down, if I can find it. So that's the string output you see for format 1, and that's what we use. The RS-232. Those are different format strings you could change. So if you change different formats, maybe you could use it with different printers, but you have to know what format's right for your printer. So command formats, and then we'll see the basic simple commands. So in this example, you can see how if I want to print, I do capital P. So here on my keyboard, I type in capital P. Now I'll see my date, time, net, tear, gross. If I want to tear, capital T. Okay, I tear the weight, and you see my indicator is 0. And now you see how I teared out whatever the gross was, 956. I teared out that weight, 956, and now it says 0 pound net. And you can see the same thing for 0, and if you want to read gross net weight. Some more advanced commands you could try out, but that's the command request. So if you run a software, typically you want to create like a loop, and it actually does that, where it continuously sends a command, and then from the software you can be able to control the head unit and say, okay, now tear this weight. Okay, now print the weight. Now do whatever you want. So that would be a command request. So I want to show you the different print format because there is more than one. You did see the print format for serial number, daytime, net, tear, and gross. So back C18 and C18 2. Right when I press print, you'll see it. So right now it's just a serial number, daytime, net, tear, gross, but there is more formats. So in the previous section, I did mention how you have the piece count feature. So let's say I add a piece count and I add weight to scale. And remember, it doesn't do 3, so it has to be either 1, 5, 10, or 20 pieces that I put on there. And right now I'll say put 5. And sometimes you might get an error 9 because it's not the proper piece count. Okay, so I think I sort of figured out the issue. I did restart it and put it back on again, turn it back on. Count is set. Sometimes when I'm here, press count to get into the count menu. And sometimes it will try to do like 5. Sometimes it might give an error, like error 9, which just kind of means like try it again. So sometimes you have to escape, count is set a couple times. I'm not really sure exactly what causes this because it's not really consistent, but you can see how now I could get it consistently. I have 10, right? I go back down. So once you get the piece count working, sometimes you might get the error 9, but just keep trying again and again, and you'll see what I mean. And if you scroll on the manual, you'll see there's different print strings. So printing. So we tried the first one, the standard printing, serial number, date, time, net, tear, gross. And if I'm in the counting, you see my terminal, I still left it open. You can see, I'll try again. Serial number, date, time, net, tear, gross. Because I'm currently in the pounds. If I count, see 5 piece count, press print. Now you see date, time, the amount of pieces I put on there, the average piece weight, 200 pounds, the net, 999, 0 tear, and 999 gross. Because it's a gross minus a tear, get the net. So each piece is about 200 pounds because there's 5 pieces. So and that's useful because you can know average piece of each one, how many pieces, net, tear, gross. And it'll be similar for accumulation. If you're going to accumulate axles, and in the manual will describe it as well. You see that. And there's a checking print mode. So if you enter your printer, now you're able to count how many pieces you have or something. And if the pieces go up, for example, right now I have 10, same thing. I'm able to hit print and you'll see date, time, the new number of pieces, the average piece of each weight, the total net weight, and the gross weight. So that's pretty useful feature if you're trying to connect to a floor scale, count a lot of pieces. And remember, this one does have the advantage where if we go back to count, remember you could have a negative weight. So you could have a negative piece count and it would actually work versus the 900, which wouldn't count a negative piece at all. So if I, let's say 2,000 pounds on the scale, turn it off, turn it back on, it's still going to zero out whatever I have on the scale. Or not. Because, well, when it weighs too heavy, it won't actually zero out. Or I could just tear. Now I have a negative weight, and you can see I could have the piece count as well. But I had to set the piece count with something. So in this case, it will give me an error 9 if I try to go above 6 pieces. Error 9. So you have to go below whatever that count was. So it might be like 10. Right, so you have a negative piece count. And then that's useful because at least you know how many pieces you have. And then when you add the weight, you can't print to it. That was kind of what I wanted to show. But I could still print out now with a positive weight how much is the average piece weight, net, tear, gross. So it's pretty useful. And that's kind of the main features I wanted to show you. So just know that there are other string formats. So depending on what printer or computer you're using, you can see format 1, 2, 3, 4. The default is 1, which for our printer is what we use mainly. You can see that's format 1. That's what we use. And you could change it if you go to the settings. And it will be... yeah, here it is. Communication format, change it from C41 to 1, 2, 3, 4, depending on what you're using. But that's kind of all the features, and that's kind of the differences between a 905 and a 900. So this could be used for truck scale, this could be used for floor scale, this could be used for a lot of different things. You just remember how to wire it up correctly, and that's kind of it. And hopefully this helps you out. Thank you. Bye.